you're a foreigner, you're either an idiot, which I was, or like a genius. Comedy is like the closest type of organization to the Japanese mafia. You do whatever the people above you say. Like, I can't even talk about a lot of the stuff on the podcast. Well, I'm pretty funny, which I wasn't, but I thought I was. I would have nightmares years after graduating that school.
Welcome to Unpacking Japan. I'm Toby, and today we welcome Nick, known online as Nick Nissan, or as part of the Manzai comedic duo Time Bomb, where you've been basically performing with for quite a few years now already.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming, making the journey from Tokyo on such a hot day.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we are going to talk a lot about your experience on Japanese TV, your experience with Manzai comedy, and maybe get a little bit into that.
Sure.
But I want to know a little bit first, because you got into such a specific topic. What brought you to Japan in the first place?
Yeah. So I first got in Japan, I've been in Japan for almost 20 years, so quite a long time. When I was 6, my mom bought me, do you know Ryoanji? It's like the rock garden in Kyoto where there's,
yes,
it's the most famous one.
Mm-hmm.
She bought me like a miniature version of that, and it actually got me into Zen,
Okay.
which is a very strange thing for like a 6-year-old to be in. And I was basically from that point on, I was really into Japan. And then the Sci-Fi Channel, which is like a science fiction channel, I don't know if it's still going on in the United States, but they had this Saturday morning anime show where they would show anime from like the 80s or 90s, adult stuff. Very violent, very sexual. And I'm like 8 years old in the morning seeing these. I'm like, this is so cool. This is so much cooler than like American cartoons. There's blood, there's bad words, So this is before anime got famous, because anime, I would say, got famous in the States with Dragon Ball Z on Cartoon Network. So I'd already been into that quite a bit before. And then in middle school, you're already into Japan. So you start looking at the history and samurai, and you start writing stuff like that. And then I go to high school. I was really lucky to have a math teacher that was Japanese and who I was in love with as well. And she took us to Japan, and she taught me, Japanese words and stuff like that. So that's how it
So you did your first kind of trip to Japan in high school?
Yeah, it was maybe in 2001 or 2002. It was one of those, and my mind was blown. It was here in Osaka. I felt like I was in the future. There was a Mr. Donuts, which is still around, but
Well, the first Mr. Donuts in Japan opened in Mino.
Oh, really?
Osaka,
I didn't know that.
Osaka.
Well, I just remember I went to Mr. Donuts, and I remember it was a donut and ramen, like, combo. Just imagine, imagine you're like a high school student, there's just donuts and ramen. It's like the best breakfast you could think of, so, yeah.
And at that time, did you kind of think like, oh, I want to come back here to live?
100%. Yeah. I had already been pretty... it's an easy choice when you're into something that much, I'm like a, OG otaku, I guess, because, people say, they'll say, I was never really into anime or this. I think most people are lying. I think that was like a big, gateway for people coming into Japan,
So when was the first time you actually came here to live?
The first time I came, it was in 2007. Yeah.
So quite a few years later.
Yeah. Quite a few years later. I was in my 3rd year of university. I went to Sophia University, which is a beautiful campus. It was a really, it was just an amazing experience. I loved it. Studied about, social issues, history, culture, everything like that. And at that point in time, I couldn't really speak, you can't really speak Japanese that well. But yeah, I was here for a year, go back to the States, and I'm like, I'm going back to Japan. As soon as I graduate, I'm going back to Japan. And my parents had already realized my dedication to Japan and Japanese. So it's not like they, were like questioning me or anything like that. And of course, there were people who were like, are you sure you don't want to study business? Or like, what about psychology or something like that? I was like, no, I'm going to do Japanese. And it was probably the best decision that I ever made, for sure.
So after being kind of here for 1 year as a student at the university without the language skills, you come back after to learn Japanese specifically?
Well, I was learning Japanese. I just sucked at it. I just wasn't that good. Just like everybody is. You start. It takes. People you see all these commercials for like language and stuff like that, and it's like, learn Japanese in 2 months or something like that. It's like, no.
Fluent in 8 days.
Yeah. It's like if it was that easy, everybody would be fluent. It takes, I'd say, like 8 years to get really good. So I come back to Japan, I go to a language school, and it's all Chinese people, and they already have something similar to kanji, right? Where, it came from China. So I'm pissed that they're all way better than me. So I'm just like, okay, I need to like study to at least get to their level, study. And then I don't have anything else to do because I'm in Japanese school. Once you're done, it's like maybe it's a 2-year thing. I wasn't there for 2 years. I was there for like 1 year. And then I was like, what should I do? And I've always like been pretty narcissistic. And I was like, maybe I should just go on TV. And then I realized there's schools, because like Japan is like, America's not like this. America doesn't have like, is it vocational schools or like, I don't know what senmongakko is.
I think you can call it the vocational school, where you basically study for 2 years and prepare for a specific profession.
That's what it is. So I saw that and it's like, oh wow, one for going on TV. This is easy. I could do this. So I studied for the JLPT. And I wouldn't even say I'm fluent in Japanese yet. If you know how to study for those tests, you can somehow
pass them.
Yeah, you can pass them, which I did. Get into the school. I'm the only, non-Japanese person in the section that I was in. And to tell you the truth, I didn't want to do comedy. This is there's like a comedy section and a talento section.
Oh, so basically talento, the people that you see on TV that comment on all kinds of news facts and so on.
And when you say you're going to do comedy in Japan, and we can talk about this more in depth later, it's not... We're in a day and age where you have to be careful of like, sexual harassment, types of harassment, violence towards people below you. Comedy is like the closest probably like type of organization to the Japanese mafia. Like it really is. I mean, it's
how so?
It's so structured from bottom to top. So it's like when you go in, like say in America, you get famous, you would maybe pay for the people below you just because you're famous, right? In Japan, it's when you came in and I mean, we can talk about this more, but it's a lot of hazing, a lot of you do whatever the people above you say. Like I can't even talk about a lot of this stuff on the podcast, but you're trying to make people laugh with like 500 other people that are trying to make people laugh. So imagine like the things that people tell you to do to...
Okay, let's get into that in a minute. But you're back in Senmongakko and you have to choose between either becoming a talent or becoming a comedian. And you see the reputation of comedy and you're like, I'll still do it.
No. I just wanted the visa. And I thought I could get on Japanese TV. And then I'm there for a year. I didn't even touch the comedy part. And I realized the talent section was just for people who just needed to graduate and they were never going to become famous.
Okay.
It's just like the nice path, the easy path. So then I started thinking like, well, I'm pretty funny, which I wasn't, but I thought I was. You can make jokes with your friends, but that doesn't mean that you're a professional comedian. And the day I decided to join the comedy, by the way, the teacher was like terrifying. Like it would never, like in Germany, there would never be a teacher like that in this day and age, or in America. Like he would be fired immediately. Like the things that he said, which was one of the reasons why I didn't want to join the comedy thing. It's just because very scary guy who I ended up liking quite a lot. But I was like, I think I want to do comedy. And right when I said that, my partner, my comedy partner, Takakua, so his partner quit. And the reason that he quit was because after a show, they went out to dinner, and his partner said something that one of the people above him didn't like what he said and ended up getting yelled at for like 4 hours till the morning. And he just couldn't take it. Like, it was just too much for him, and he quit. So the teacher was like, well, why don't you two try? And I was like, yeah, if you join with me, we'll get famous really fast. That's how naive I was. And that's how I started doing the comedy thing.
Is it common to have like an international Manzai duo?
No, but there are, and it's such like a novelty thing, right? There was Pakun Makun before me. I'm going to say this to anybody that wants to do comedy in Japan. You're always just going to be that foreigner that's all you have. You know, why would they want to watch you if you're just going to talk about stuff that Japanese people talk about? Like what you want to do and what you can do are completely different things. So I didn't realize that when I started. And now I've been doing, you know, it's been, I don't know, 15 years, 16 years. So I can kind of, you know, it's like Picasso. You have to learn how to paint classically before you can like.
Just make 3 strokes.
Yeah. So I did,
you know,
it was years of just doing that routine. So that's how I started doing comedy at school.
What do you actually learn about comedy at school? Like what are things they teach you?
The things they teach you, number one, is you have to have a really loud voice, louder than everybody else. Reactions, like react really fast. I still wasn't completely fluent in Japanese. Like I couldn't really understand everything everybody was saying. But because of this, I was there like 8 hours a day with these guys who were pretty good at talking. My Japanese got like really good, really fast. They'll do things like, it's crazy because I don't have them now, but I would have nightmares years after graduating that school of the classes of that school. And that teacher would be in my nightmares, and I would talk to the other guys who graduated, and they're like, we have the same exact ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a fun school.
It's not fun. It's not fun. I think it's probably nicer now. They actually don't even have it anymore. It's
Closed.
gone. Yeah.
But what's interesting is you said you kind of learn about the voice and you learn about reacting. So it feels like the comedy is more staged than natural.
Well, yeah, there were also improv classes, but the types of things you would learn the most was imagine having to wake up at like 6 a.m. and showing your joke to a bunch of people at like 7:30 in the morning. That's not the time that you would want to wake up and be funny. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like learning to do stuff that you don't want to do at times that you don't want to do it, but being really silly. So it's just, you know, you could probably just learn comedy like how Americans learn comedy, which is just do it on a stage in front of people. But
like stand-up shows and just go out there.
Exactly. But this is in a school setting. So, it was the most difficult experience school-wise that I've ever had. And I've done my master's and stuff like that.
So you graduate from the school and then you have your duo partner, Takakuwa-san.
Yeah.
And you start doing Manzai. Now, before we get into that, can you explain me briefly what is Manzai and what is unique about this for someone who's not so familiar with this comedy type?
Yeah. So Manzai very simply is two guys. This is modern Manzai. Like, you know, when I shouldn't say modern, I should say like since the 2000s, 90s. One guy's an idiot and the other guy's the straight man. And one guy says something stupid and the other guy's like, you know, what are you saying? And there's different styles to it. But it's a very protected art form. Like you can't really stray from that formula. You can like work within the boxes of Manzai and like make new types of Manzai. But if you stray too much out of that formula, it's a common theme people say in these Manzai contests. Comedy in Japan is all contests.
Okay.
Including small shows. It's like everything is a contest.
There will always be like a ranking. This one was the funniest.
Yes.
This one was
and this, I think, started around 2001 when M1, which is the biggest Manzai tournament, started. And Yoshimoto, which is like the biggest, the biggest company conglomerate of comedy in Japan, or entertainment, I should say, started it. So it's basically, you aim for around 3 minutes. They'll have it longer depending on where you are. But 3 minutes, there needs to be this amount of jokes. You get judged. Is it, so it's not just is it funny, is it funny and is it Manzai? It's a very interesting dynamic.
So Manzai, it's always 2 men.
You can be 3.
Can it be women as well?
Yeah, it can be women. For sure.
But then, so you have 2, sometimes 3. You have a 3 minutes sketch with one being the playing the dumb person and the other one the kind of serious person. But you also said that it's all in tournaments and there's this company behind. So is it really like in industry as opposed to where maybe in the US you have a lot of, stand-up comedians that make their own shows. And of course there's a business behind, but it's kind of more about them. Whereas here it sounds like it's more about the company structuring everything.
It's a business. It's more close to like the WWE, like wrestling, than it is to like American comedy.
Okay.
So you have a big company and they put on the shows and you go on their shows. Of course there'll be like small people going on, but it's basically the company runs everything. It's a lot less, I would say, artistic. It is still artistic. I don't want to say Manzai is not artistic, but it's a business. And basically, they say for comedians, you don't have a business card because your business card is your Manzai. So the whole point of doing Manzai is to get famous so you can go on TV and maybe not have to do Manzai anymore. Like when you see these really famous comedians, a lot of them, they don't do Manzai anymore. They just go on TV and talk. They become...
So they end up becoming the talent.
Yes, exactly. It's just one way to become a talent. And then there are guys that do Manzai forever, and they're good too. I'm not quite sure how much money they make compared to what you would,
So how did it work for you after you graduated from school to kind of get started?
Sure. So of course, I had the luck or the advantage of me not being Japanese. So that adds like, let's say 20, 30% onto your
You're more
chances.
Easily noticeable.
Yeah. And we went on to this contest. It was called Shinjenge Taisho, I think. So as I said, it's all contests. And somehow, like, I guess it's a good joke. I would never perform it now. We got on to the final. So it was like out of 1,000 people, 4 groups got chosen, and which is ridiculous, for a first year. Mm-hmm. So then we get on that show. We didn't win, but once you're on the finals, then TV kind of notices you, and then they start calling you on to, doing Manzai on other shows or going on TV shows to do. And I didn't know I sucked. I had no talent, no know-how of how to, speak with Japanese people back and forth. So it was just a disaster, to tell you the truth, but yeah.
And still you made it to the finals.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about after the finals. So after that, when they're trying to get you to like talk, on other TV shows, I just got lucky to be on the finals. So I was like a total fish out of water. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Yeah.
So how does it work when you get like called on these TV stations? Do you have like a manager that kind of starts organizing all your appearances?
Yes. You have a manager. And at that point in time, my company had this huge, wow, these guys are going to be huge, which we didn't end up becoming huge. But I had a manager putting me on TV shows. And I'll make it very clear, like for comedy in Japan, it's like going to Disneyland and seeing like Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck or Goof. Like people that watch TV have to understand who you are within like 1 second. So that's why they all wear like, they'll have like a silly bow tie or
very big glasses, funny
big
haircuts.
Glasses, or like if you're like a female, it's usually you're either, this is unpolitically correct, but I'm trying to give an observation. It's like you're fat, you're ugly, you're too old to be married, or you're just really weird. Like it's like characters for, like if you're a foreign, like, if you're a foreigner, you're either an idiot, which I was, or like a genius, like Atsugiri Jason, who's another famous comedian. So it's like they need to see who you are right away. You don't have that much time. It's not like,
But it's interesting because you started saying this is not politically correct to say, and you kind of explain the characters that people play. Is there this discussion in Japan about this not being politically correct?
Well, I think they're kind of like fixing it up themselves like that, but it's not like people force these, female comedians to do this. It's just they're the ones that happen to get famous. I mean, you think of like Watanabe Naomi, who she is. She's like one of the most famous, very talented, she's a big lady, but she can dance. It's very easy for Japanese people to like understand who she is and what she is.
Which is interesting that you bring her up as an example, but because I believe a few years ago she actually decided to stop this and try to make it in the States. And she has a show in New York.
She is making it in the States. So there are people who realize like I don't want to do this type of like. For me, I'm thankful for Manzai. I think the entertainment industry is like an interesting thing, but it's like. It's just so simplified. Like everything's so simplified and like exaggerated. Like if you look at Japanese TV, I'll give you an example. Like in the United States, I think reality TV trying to like make normal people interesting was this huge phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is the life of a normal person? Like when you watch a game show like Jeopardy, it's normal people. Japan is the complete opposite. Colors, weird lights. It's like Disney. It's trying to get away from normal. So it's all these exaggerated people, beautiful people, ugly people. Like it's like almost the opposite type of escape.
I once had a conversation with someone who was saying that, Japanese society is quite strict and they have a lot of social rules and that you kind of have to follow. And comedians are this kind of escape. They represent all the things that maybe people want to make fun of or laugh about that they cannot in daily life. And these comedians are the outlet for this. They represent kind of all these.
Well, it's almost like a sacrificial character, because if you look at Manzai, say there's like a very easy to picture Manzai kombi, as they say, would be a really tall guy and a really fat guy. Now, when the really tall guy makes fun of the really fat guy, he's making fun of fat people, but not making fun of the fat people in the audience. He's making fun of this fat guy. So the fat people in the audience can laugh too. Like, it's a very safe way. The only person who's the victim of the joke are the two people on the stage. Whereas like stand-up comedy,
especially some stand-up comedians will just engage with the audience, right? They'll pick people in the front row, and if you sit there, you're done.
Yeah, exactly. And then another famous, I don't know if this is for all comedy schools, I'm pretty sure it is, but they say like you need to make babies to old people laugh, which is basically saying everybody needs to like what you do, which is like the total opposite of like in this. If you said that in the States, they'd be like, God, you must suck. Like, why would you want to make everybody laugh? Don't you want to like have your own like angle and stuff? So it's like, it's very poppy. It's a pop phenomenon. Like a lot of the Yoshimoto comedians are good looking young guys.
Mm-hmm. Like, so it's kind of playing on trends.
Yeah. And it's mostly young girls that watch it.
Okay.
It's like 14-year-old, 15-year-old girls. Yeah.
So to get back about your career in Manzai, you start getting in there, you have a first success on that competition, and you start being booked for TV shows and so on. How often do you suddenly have to perform? Do you have to like learn a lot of sketches, or do you, I don't know if you say sketch in English.
Bit, I guess, is the right word. So if you want to, like the whole point of doing Manzai is to get so good that you get to the finals of M1 and then you get famous. So we didn't quite do this, but I mean, it was like maybe 20 times a month. But if you're a really good comedian, it'll be like 30 times, 60 times, twice a day, every day of.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Their entire lives are dedicated to this, and they're not making money. They're losing money.
How so?
Because like a lot of the shows, you have to pay money to go on the show. It's not like the States where you get paid. Once you get famous in Yoshimoto, you can go onto their big things and you get paid like a salaryman would get paid or more if you're famous. But a show is just a practice space. Like in the early 90s, you'll hear like a lot of comedians were just doing comedy so they could get a sitcom like Seinfeld on TV. Like they weren't. But now there's this like culture of tons of people performing, and it hasn't got to that state yet in Japan. It's you're doing comedy to get somewhere else. I mean, you'll still do comedy, but
so it's not really about the comedy.
Man, it's hard to tell. Like as I said, it's the shows that you do are just you practicing your jokes so much. Okay, I didn't get laughs at this point and this point this show, so we'll change this and change this. We tried it the next show. Okay, that worked. That didn't work. Let's do that, and then let's add this and try it. So you just keep building upon. It's in that way. It's the same as the States. You're like comedians are always just because if you don't hear people laugh. The only way to change your joke is the only way to know if your joke is funny is if people laugh or not, right?
Yeah.
So you have, like, it's not like music where you could just practice here, you have to practice in front of people, and that's what shows are.
Now, all of this is done in Japanese.
All this is done in Japanese.
And you said you did not speak perfect Japanese when you were at the comedy school or the basically TV practice school, and that you did improve a lot. But a lot of people say you speak a language very well when you can understand comedy in that language, right? Yeah. But how were you able to really get to that level, and how are you able to maybe get the laughs for people in Japan?
Well, honestly, I didn't understand comedy. I would, like, if I saw something, I would just laugh, pretending I understood what it was. Like, I'd laugh with all the other Japanese guys. But it would take me usually in a company, you have to do a new 3-minute joke. It's like a 3 to 5 minute joke. It depends on your level of where you are in their show. The lower guys do 3 minutes or 2 minutes or 1 minute. But it took me about a month to get a 3-minute joke down, which is a long time. Now, we actually did a new joke yesterday and it took like 2 hours, you know what I mean? So it's obviously
Practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect. Yeah.
So a lot of practice for the language.
A lot of practice.
But what about the kind of the nuances? Because a lot of comedy, I think, is built a lot on building up an expectation and then kind of going the other way around. But you need to understand also the cultural context for a lot of the jokes.
Yeah,
right?
so it would require explanation from my partner, who is very patient with me. We can talk about the dynamics between Manzai partners later if you want. But, he's basically like, I'm his like puppet clown. Like, that's literally what it is. There's a Manzai duo with like a person and a monkey. Like, that's like a real thing in Japan. That's basically what I was. I was just a monkey, like.
So how does it work in this duo? Like, do you work out the jokes together? Or in this case, for example, because he's a native speaker, will he take on more of the writing?
He's going to do the writing. Really, the boke, the stupid guy, is supposed to do the writing because the jokes are in the mistakes. The mistakes. But obviously, I can't do that. So when we started, it would be him writing. He'd be like, I want you to do this, this, and this. I'd be like, okay. Yeah.
And then you just practice it.
Yeah, just practice it. Yeah. And we, once you just do that over and over, like, how long has it been? I mean, we haven't been pro for 16 years or 15 years, but we've been doing it for like 15 years. So, yeah.
If you have so many shows and you are always with the same duo, you must spend a lot of time together.
So, I could tell you recently I spend more time with my family, but like, when the first, I'd say 6, maybe 7, 8 years, it was like him all the time, besides my senpai, because you're always with your senpai with comedy too. That's another big thing, is the senpai kohai stuff. But you're not friends. It's like quite the opposite. Like a lot of like we get into fist fights at auditions, or like it's like imagine having to be with a brother like all the time. So guys are always getting into fights.
Do a lot of Manzai, you just break up and they reform other ones?
Yeah, they do that quite often. And then a lot of guys, they'll do the comedy and then they don't talk to each other at all besides.
So it's really like work.
Yeah, it's really like work. But I've been doing it so long with my partner Takakua that we're like I think we're like very close for a Manzai duo.
You said that you spend a lot of time together, but also then with the senpai. And earlier you were giving the example of, Takakua-san's former partner leaving because of a kind of disagreement with the senpai.
Yeah.
Can you explain more like this structure and how this works and why you started off by saying it's basically like the Japanese mafia?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, imagine you're in a profession where you're not making money, but there are guys above you making money, and you're basically at their mercy, kind of, because, if they take you in under their wing, they're going to pay for you pay for everything. It's like...
You pay out of pocket.
Yeah. I mean, they pay for you. So everybody under me, if I go out with them, I pay for everything. Anybody above me, they... And it's really like humiliating sometimes. Like one time there was a guy that decided he wanted to become a comedian at like 75 years of age. So he comes into my company. He's like, Nick-san, like calling me like, bowing to me, and it just feels so bad that there's this old guy. It's like, but that's like how it works. Mm-hmm. So with me, I got really lucky. I got really cool, really famous senpai. I'm not going to say their names, but they were like, Nick, hang out with me. Because, when I was in school, one of my senpai was like, when there's a guy that's interested in you, Nick, you're going to know that they're probably going to be more successful, because successful comedians are interested in things that aren't normal, and you're not normal. So make sure to hang out with them, because a normal Japanese guy doesn't want to do that. You'll be a pain in the ass to them. So I got these famous guys, like, this is through years of connections, kind of, but, and they were all really cool. And that's how I started getting really funny. Like I'm every day with them, hanging out with them. It's like all your friends are your senpai and kohai. And there's this whole dynamic of, saying something that you wouldn't say to your senpai, but you say it to them and that's funny, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's like... So
it's basically a sort of microcosm of how you talk within this bubble to people.
Yes. Like, yeah. So, like I said Watanabe Naomi to you because we were speaking English, but I would never say, Watanabe Naomi in Japanese. You would say, Watanabe Naomi-san, or, you know what I mean?
But that will turn into kind of a joke in that sphere because you're sort of disrespecting the person.
Yeah, exactly. That's like a big thing in the whole comedy thing.
One of the goals of starting Manzai is to kind of get out of Manzai. But in Japan, on TV, a lot of comedians like Samma-san, we were talking about him just before starting the recording. He's a big personality. Everyone in Japan knows him, and he's adored by most people, I believe so. What makes these people really get to that stage where they are?
Oh, man, well, with him, insane talent, right time, right place, being a very nice person, which he is, like from my experience, a very nice person, Sama-san. I've worked with him like just twice, but I don't like it's the talking, Manzai is practice. It's a, this is like not 100% true, but they say that Manzai came out of, all the samurai and stuff were up in Tokyo and all the business people were in Osaka, and they all had to like barter with each other. So the people that were funnier talking in everyday life were the ones that sold more stuff, and then the comedy thing starts getting bigger and bigger. So if you can do Manzai and you kind of learn how to like naturally say the things you say in Manzai, because Manzai is supposed to be a real conversation, right? Obviously it's scripted, but real like even like 50 years ago or something, it was probably a lot less scripted. It was probably a lot slower, because now it's 5 minutes, so it has to be really tight. But once you get good at talking, and you do get good at talking, so I don't really like doing Manzai. I don't really have an interest. If I had the choice to not do it, maybe I wouldn't do it. But I can't deny all the things that I learned from doing Manzai. Like, I'm really good at talking in Japanese. I'm probably better at talking Japanese than I am in English.
Because of so much practice.
Just because of so much practice, I notice things. Like I notice something funny that somebody says, and then I can say something. So once you do Manzai a lot, you learn how to speak, and then you can start doing emceeing, and it's like just Manzai but naturally. And that's why Sama-san didn't do Manzai. I think he was a rakugo guy.
Okay.
But so it's all the same. There's 3 types of comedy: it's rakugo, Manzai, and then konto, which is a skit.
So 3 types of comedies in Japan, but they're all kind of coming from traditional Japanese arts.
Yes. I mean, Manzai is thousands of years old, or 1,000 years old.
Is there also in Japan comedy that is maybe comparable to what you have in the US? This kind of like stand-up comedy and just making fun of people, breaking that barrier you mentioned earlier that is more, let's say, familiar to us, or is it not working?
So there's guys in Shibuya now at the Tokyo, I think it's the Tokyo Comedy Club, PAR. I don't know the name of it. BJ Fox. There's guys doing stand-up comedy in Japanese, but that's always gonna be a more, and it's funny, it's hilarious. These tons of funny guys, but this is a institution. Like the Japanese comedy world is an institution. Like you can't get around their rules. You can't get around, Manzai is the way their type of comedy is how you get on TV. Like it is creative in some ways, but like, of course there are people doing their own thing, but it's not going to be the same.
What about the arrival of social media then? Because if Manzai is a way to get on comedy, now you can record a skit online in your room and have millions of people watch it on social media. Is this affecting comedy in Japan?
Yeah, I think it's affecting comedy in Japan a lot. It affected me in the best way ever. During Corona, you couldn't do shows. And the way they were doing shows was so Japanese. It was really funny. Like, towards the end, they would have like this plastic like curtain in front of the stage so you didn't spit on them. And like sometimes they would be like to the audience, please don't laugh too much, like stuff like that. It's like, what's the point of coming to the show if you're not going to? So, a lot of people like me were I'm just going to do stuff on the internet, like some funny stuff, and gets big. And then you start realizing, wait, I don't need to go on TV to do all this stuff that I want to do. Actually, I can't do what I want to do on TV. Why don't I just do it on my own on YouTube or like Instagram or something like that? And then
so the younger generation of comedians also embracing,
but they're not called comedians. So when YouTube started, a guy in a really famous advertising agency, because in Japan advertising agencies have a lot more control on art, I think. Actually, now the United States is probably the same, but they have a very strong control on like movies, music. It's like, you know what I'm talking about. Like
Dance and Hakuhodo.
I wasn't gonna say the names, but you said the names. But the guy was one of the guys I knew in there, very smart guy. Was like, you need to do YouTube, Nick. And I started doing a little bit of YouTube with him, and the comedian's like, you're doing YouTube, you loser, like you amateur, like YouTube's for amateurs. And then 10 years later, now every comedian has a YouTube channel. But you know, at that point in time, it was like very uncool to do YouTube. But they're still looked as non-professional, like social media people.
It's interesting because then looked at non-professional by whom, right? By the industry.
By the industry.
But
by
then
the industry.
the younger generation is like, well, I don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
You know.
Well, I mean, I can tell you this, and this is, I'm sorry if I'm being too critical about Manzai. Manzai's, this actually isn't my words, it's the words of the guy from the advertising agency. Manzai is like being a swordsmith in the 21st century. It's like, it's an art form, it's like a dinosaur. These companies still, I don't think, get it, really. But it's like, because the whole point of doing this is to make superstars. That's the whole point of these comedy. You know, like why, it's not,
all
like,
the competitions.
Yeah, they're not doing it completely for the love of it. Of course they love it, but it's to make money, to make millions of dollars, to sell things, you know? So, and they're still doing the same thing where they put these comedians in these like shows, 30 days. Like I know a lot of the comedians who started with me are in the same exact spot that they were when I was doing it. But me and my bad American brain who's like, why don't I just try doing these Manzai skills in other places? I'll try a couple businesses, and it worked out for me like really well. And there's Japanese guys that do that too, but a lot of these guys, like, I don't want to say it's laziness because it's not like they're lazy because they work really hard at what they do. But have you ever seen the movie Alice in Wonderland?
Yes.
Do you remember the scene where the dodo is on top of the mountain with a fire? Everybody's wet. And he has a fire drying himself off, and all the other animals are like running around in a circle while the tide goes in and out and gets them wet. That's what the comedy industry for me is like. These guys are completely sacrificed their lives. They'll not, I mean, unless they're geniuses, it's something else. They're not going to ever have money. You know, I don't want to say depressing because that's disrespectful, but it's very like, it's a cruel, you're an outlaw. You're not a normal Japanese person. The normal Japanese society is you get a job, you work, 9 to 5.
So by being a comedian, you're already an outlier.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah. You're not a normal part of society. And you'll see a lot of comedians do things that get them in trouble, right? Like there's a lot of scandals and stuff. And I'm always like, I never get mad at them about it because I'm like, if this was a normal person, he wouldn't be able to do comedy in the first place. It takes some crazy nutcase to,
Do you have a couple of shows that you remember that you kind of have like very fond memories, like despite the context that this is in, where you're like, this was really nice because you felt maybe the audience reaction was very genuine? Or...
I don't have any ones of nice ones. All I remember are the horrible ones.
All right, let's go for the horribles because I'm interested in the stories.
One thing I can say is when you get laughs, it's like doing a drug. It's like doing a really strong drug, so you feel so good after. Like that's one of the reasons why I haven't quit yet. But when you bomb, as they say, and most people do, you can't get laughs every single time. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not a really good Manzai shia. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just stuck to it. Like, it's not like we're famous for Manzai. It's not like, we're the best Manzai. I've had the experience of what it's like to be a Manzai shia. But one of the ones was, there was a big joke show, which was another contest on NHK. It was called Onbato, On Air Battle. So if you're one of the funnier guys on the show, they put you on air. If you suck, it ends like you don't get to go on TV.
Your career is over.
Or yeah. I mean, you just don't get to go on the TV show, right? So and it's a tour around Japan. So we were in Hokkaido, and one of the introduction bit to my thing was I have like a bag of peanuts, and I'm eating it on stage, which is like totally disrespectful in Japan because they're like here I can drink water. But on a Japanese show, you would never even touch the water. You know what I mean? It's like
it's just for decoration.
It's just for yeah. So me eating peanuts is already ridiculous, which had gotten tons of laughs at other, shows. Just it's just a way to like warm everybody up. So, there's 500 people or whatever in the audience, I eat the peanut and I start choking on, I start choking on them, like literally choking on them, just like on stage, and just the whole audience is like totally like, what the hell is going on type of thing. And then after that, you can't get any laughs, right? Because you've totally ruined the like.
So the opening bit is
is the
important.
opening just messed everything up. So that was one of the ones.
So you're standing there on stage and you have this very colorful stage behind you, and then you said 500 people in the audience. For people that sometimes have seen Japanese TV but have never seen the behind, like what's going on behind like all the cameras and everything?
I mean, it's like shoshomachi kudasai, shoshomachi kudasai, shoshomachi kudasai. Like it's like if you ever have been on like a set with Japanese people, and I'm sure a lot of like extra, like there are a lot of extra actors, right, who are like foreign actors. They're always having tons of fun, and the Japanese people are like very like work centered. It's like it's just a cultural difference thing, you know what I mean? It's like because I've like helped write shows before, which were like drama type shows, and it was so funny just the difference between how the foreign audience acts and how the Japanese or the foreign workers act. It's so much more structured in Japan. You don't mess around. But I just got reminded of a very fond, probably the best feeling I've ever had in my career was there's a famous show. It's called Gotodang. It's like a pretty risque show actually for Japan. It's like late at night, and there's this. It's called Majiuta Senshuken. So it's like songs. You write comedy songs, and me and this guy Black Samurai. He's half Cameroon, half Japanese, from Nagoya, and that's he's very Japanese. So for Japanese people, it's really funny because he looks like a black guy, but he's totally Japanese. Like, it's super cliche now to say something like that, but you know what I mean? Like, that's the type of thing that makes people laugh,
Wait, isn't he the one who has a podcast as well?
He might have a podcast. Really cool guy. Very interesting guy. You should talk to him. But we did this song that got really popular that year. We wrote a joke song. We did it on TV a couple times, and they invited us to play it at Budokan, which is like, that's where the Beatles played,
Big performance.
Yeah. I don't know how many. It's like maybe 20,000 people. And we played that. You're backstage. You think, wow, the Beatles were backstage. You know what I mean? And everybody knew the lyrics because we'd done it on,
on that TV show, and it got popular, and everyone picked it up.
Yeah, that felt so good. That was like, unfortunately, Takakua, my Japanese comedy partner, he wasn't a part of that, but so it's called a unit. So you can make a like temporary
one-time collab.
Yeah, one-time collab. And later he joined us for like a year. The three of us did it, but that was really fun. It was really cool. When you see that many people, you're just not even nervous because it's like you can't even see a face in the crowd.
I'm curious about what gets the audience to react. You said that you choking on the peanut did not really work.
Yeah.
And that the comedians themselves are kind of representative of certain things in society, and people want to laugh at that.
Yes.
But generally speaking, do you notice like any differences in terms of, as humans, what Japanese people like to or laugh at, or as opposed to maybe in the US?
Yeah, well, I mean, Japanese comedy is not like sarcasm isn't a big thing here. I could give you anecdotes of how sarcasm doesn't work, but it just, I don't have to. It just isn't a big thing here. It's absurdity, Japanese comedy. It's like absurdity to the extreme. So it's like overreacted movements, like funny voices, obviously subversion of expectations. Saying something, or, basically stabbing them when they had some expectation, you stab them in the back about it. That's comedy everywhere, right? And then there's just really smart people. Like, I should mention this because it sounds like I'm belittling Japanese comedy. When I first started going on TV, there'd be like people my age or younger, and I just remember thinking like, this person's so much smarter than me. Like, these are not the same type. This isn't a normal person. So a lot of very just high IQ, funny people get on TV.
So for someone like Watanabe Naomi to kind of break out of this Japanese comedy industry and make it in the United States, what did it take? How did she manage to kind of?
I'm not too familiar with her. I met her once, but I mean, probably a lot of, first you have to work and make money here. She couldn't just go to New York randomly. You know what I mean? I don't know, just bravery, I guess. It's like there's other guys like, Muramoto-san, Umman Nasho. He's from Osaka. He's actually a comedian who I'm very close with. Japanese people hate him. He won, he was number one in this competition.
M1?
So in that year, M1 was gone.
Okay.
There was a scandal because one of the people involved were involved with the mafia, as I said before. So it's very closely tied. So M1 was gone for a couple of years and they made another contest. He became number one. Brilliant comedian, but very political, which is like in Japan, no sex jokes, no dark humor, no politics. It needs to be pop. It needs to be like J-pop. He didn't do that. He started, and I don't even agree with everything he says. I just really liked him because I thought he was like, wow, this guy does not give a crap about what everybody thinks. Totally banned from TV from that. So he just went to America. Now he's doing stand-up comedy in America, and he just made a documentary. I think it's called I'm a Comedian, but very interesting guy as well. Yeah. So there are people that do that.
So for you, after 15 years doing Manzai, you still do it today, about twice a month?
Yeah, or once a month, actually, recently, once a month.
But you've strayed more into like the online sphere.
Well, I mean, I can do Manzai on YouTube, and way more people watch it. Why would I this is just my personal, also, I don't like staying up late at night. I go to bed at like 9 every night.
Yeah,
so
me too. I get that.
Yeah, so if I'm at a show, I'm going to be up late. And then if you don't get laughs, you're depressed after, and then you can't sleep. If you got laughs, you're like super, it's just like you did like drugs, So it's like, I'd rather just do it on YouTube, which we do, and people like it. And the other good thing about YouTube is it's not scripted. So now we're naturally saying funny stuff. I just happen to get an audience, which in my opinion is very smart for an audience.
Do you feel like the reactions on YouTube that you get to this kind of new Manzai you're doing online are different than what you get in the audience?
Yeah. Well, you cultivate your own audience, right? Mm-hmm. So, I do 2 channels. One's an educational channel and one's like a Manzai, and both have very smart I think my audience is very smart. They're the one on my YouTube is a lot older. I think people in their 50s, 40s, 60s. So they really understand the type of funny thing I want to say. And I should also say, when I first came to Japan, TV was insane. There was naked women at or it's not when I first came to Japan. It's when I was in America watching YouTube clips of Japan. It was you've seen the old crazy. Yeah. It was this Japanese people what are they doing? And now it's it's so regulated. The Japanese people really care about complaints. So I think as things maybe got a little bit more politically correct, a lot more ways to complain on the internet. Now you can't do anything. So the reason I wanted to be on TV was not to be on these types of TV shows. I wanted to be on the crazy TV shows, and then also it's the foreigners, if you're a foreigner and you're going on TV, you get a couple of choices. You get one. It's why is Japan the most, you need to you need to
praise Japan.
Yeah, praise Japan all the time. And you can't stray from that at all. You have to pretend you had green tea for the first time. I won't say his name, but there's another foreign comedian, and he actually isn't on that much anymore, but he was on one of those shows. He's much more famous than me too. And they were so how does it feel coming to Japan, and how is it to feel the 4 seasons for the first time in your life? And he's what are you talking about? I have the 4 seasons where I am, and everybody on the panel was
other countries have 4 seasons.
Yeah. But it's I don't want to make people feel bad, but I think a lot of older people watch TV, so it needs to be very simple, very.
You need to explain where the joke is.
You need to explain where the joke is. You need to make them feel good. It's
But that's interesting because we had a few other people coming here on the podcast working in TV drama production or working in commercial production, and basically having a similar experience. You need to be very specific about what's what. You need to explain, point the finger, take the audience's hand
Yes.
through the whole thing. You don't let them, like in the United States, kind of come to their own conclusions. And
No. And that's why I said, that's why there's like, all the comedians in my company, which I'm in a pretty big company, you could identify them right away. One guy's huge, buff, wears red, has blonde hair. The other guy just wears underwear. It's like,
is that the guy that is always doing this ad where he repeats the same words?
Yeah.
I don't know his name. I don't know. I just know this ad is always coming up.
So my wife was his manager. That's how I met my wife. Yeah. But yeah. So it's just it's just it needs to be very obvious. Everything needs to be.
So for you, what's next now in YouTube? What do you feel like you want to do and you want to kind of build from there?
Well, I want to do this for a couple more years. I do want to build the YouTube up. This is the first year I really started kind of thinking about it seriously. Not even like for any money purposes, because I was on some TV shows and I got really lucky, joining businesses from Manzai and making my own businesses, like educational based stuff. But I want to, at one point, quit everything, social media completely, and I'm really into jiu-jitsu, and I just want to do jiu-jitsu, which I think a lot of people that do jiu-jitsu want to do.
So become like a teacher and...
or just keep going, doing jiu-jitsu, working out, not working too much, I guess, at some point, but...
I can imagine it's quite taxing, right? If you're always like in a spotlight and you're always being judged and evaluated, not only by the audience, but by your peers, by your senpais, by your producers.
By yourself.
By yourself.
You already have to be pretty narcissistic to be a social media personality. So imagine like how much that magnifies,
Can you tell us about this educational channel you're working on?
Yeah, so I was on a show called Nogiego, which is it was me, another comedian, and a famous teacher teaching Nogizaka 46, which is a very famous Japanese.
The girls band?
Yeah. We did it for 5 years on TBS. That was one of the TV shows that I actually enjoyed. Probably the only TV show I actually ever enjoyed doing. And then the teacher on that show was like, Nick, you have a master's. You're really good at speaking. You speak English. Why don't you just try teaching English? You could come work with me. And I worked with him, and it totally changed everything, like how I think about like business, how I think about, wow, I can use these Manzais, because his company is a huge company, and it's all pre-recorded. So I'm basically just doing educational TV shows being funny in English so kids won't get bored. And it's, TV doesn't pay well either, by the way. Like even for famous people, it doesn't pay that well.
Really?
Unless you're like Sama-san. But you usually go on TV, so you'll get called on to doing like corporate gigs or stuff like that, and that's how you make the money.
So that's why you see the same comedians' faces on every single ad in Japan.
Yeah, exactly. So you want ads. Like if you're on a commercial, you can make $100,000 or whatever or more. You know what I mean? But it's not the TV show. The TV show is just to get your face out there. So I'm now working for this company. I get introduced to a very famous Japanese YouTuber. We became best friends. We start doing YouTube together. It gets really popular. It's not me being too funny, but kind of funny while I teach Japanese people stuff. And then I start my own company for language learning. And so now I'm doing all this other stuff, but it all sprung. I actually got into a fight with my company last year because I said,
the Manzai company?
Yeah, I don't want to work anymore. And the manager called me and he was like, Nick, I just want to ask you, even though you don't like doing like Japanese comedy, do you feel like you learned anything or gained anything from what you did? And that like kind of made me think and feel really thankful to the company for like, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this if you guys didn't take me in and like teach or basically let me learn how to do Japanese comedy. So everything I've ever learned was basically, or everything I can do now is because I learned Japanese and learned Japanese comedy.
And you're transferring all those skills to kind of building.
Exactly. Just, interesting people make interesting stuff that people want to see, so.
If before you came on a podcast, I had a look at your Manzai Dio's Wikipedia page, and then I went to your Wikipedia page, which is full of very interesting trivia, such as you're very close to George Lucas.
Yeah.
You are a descendant of Sebastian Bach.
Yeah.
And you had a like big a car or something like that.
Yeah. I can tell you about all this.
All right. Where does this all come from?
So when you go on Japanese TV show, as I said before, you have to become a character. Like you have to become a hyperbolic version of something. So, man, this was very rough. Like I still regret doing it. Actually, I don't regret it because I am who I am today because of this. So the first TV show I ever did. By the way, I'm not super rich in any way, shape, or form, but this character of me being this like, spoiled rich brat who's never been on a train, which I'm,
just all takes taxis and private jets.
Yeah, stuff like that. So I'm 24, maybe 25. I see this. I go on to one of the most famous Japanese TV shows. It was the first TV show I did as a comedian. And they say, do you have any really expensive things in your house you could send over to Japan so we could put it on the TV show and you present it to people? Because people aren't really interested in me yet. They're more interested in what, if I show something interesting to them, they'll be like, oh, who is that, And I didn't have anything. So they're like, okay, we have these $50,000 dolls. They're yours. Don't ever tell anybody they're not. I'm saying this because we're speaking Japanese, and I don't think any Japanese person...
Speaking English.
Yeah, I speak English.
You confuse them already.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm just like, okay, this is a total lie, but I'll do it. So I do that. I get some traction, and I never am blaming anybody but myself for going like with their...
You played along.
I played along because I want to get famous, and I've talked to my company about this, and they're like, anybody would play along. When you're, when you want to get famous, you'll do anything. So then they're like, what other things about you? My aunt lives pretty close to George Lucas, and then in the script I see, oh, your aunt is best friends with George Lucas, and then the TV show starts, and I can't just be like, actually, and just like ruin the whole,
Because if you do that, then you're done.
Yeah, you do that and you do that. And then same with Bach. Like my mom's last name was Bach. And then, there could be a possibility that, she's related to, Johann Sebastian Bach. But then he's related to Johann Sebastian Bach. And I played into it for sure.
And it's interesting that those things are still there on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny. Whatever. I mean, it's... Like people that watch my YouTube know who I really am, and that's what I like about YouTube is because I never had to like be this character that wasn't me. Like I hated having, like I felt bad while I was doing it. Like, okay, Nick, remember you've never been on a train, like stuff like that. Which I go on trains all the time, so it's like.
Well, you came on one today.
Yeah, I came on one today, and it's really funny because like my manager was, they're all nice people. They're like, Nick, I know that's not like who you are, but you know what I mean. So
it's
like,
a business.
Yeah, and it's not like they're just outright lies because it's like just exaggerations of stuff. But there are guys that have gotten into trouble on TV, and I felt really bad for them, just because they went along with it, and then it became a problem. So.
Do you feel like the growth of YouTube and social media, and maybe the change of generation, is going to also maybe give Manzai a new approach where the concept of Manzai will remain the same because it's a very old art form.
Yeah.
But that some of these barriers will break and there will be a way to do Manzai that is, let's say, new and fresh, or will it be constrained to what
I think it will always be constrained, but there's this tradition, whether it's, a really old tradition or a new tradition that people pretend is old, that Manzai has to be within this box. But then there's also the stand-up comedy one where it's like, you can say whatever you want. It's like this. So that might not be true either. We don't, we just have that image that stand-up comedy is like that. So we need to talk about them in the same way. So Manzai, I'll give you an example. There's a group called Pekopa. Actually, I'll give you another. I'll give you them first. There's a group called Pekopa. So the Bokeh, they were on M1. The Bokeh would say something stupid, and the Tsukomi would start to Tsukomi him and then find some angle to make the Bokeh correct. So instead of Tsukoming him, he's agreeing with him. And everybody's like, wow, this is like a new type of Manzai. Nobody's done it where like, the Tsukomi ends up agreeing with the Bokeh, and they became superstars. They're in my company as well. Really nice guys. Another group, I don't remember what their bit was, But whatever they did, the judges were like, this is not Manzai. This is funny, but it's not Manzai. They get dropped. And then like 3 years or whatever later, they do the same exact thing. And everybody's like, this is this amazing new form of Manzai that, you know. So it's like, it depends on the time. It depends on, so yeah, maybe, but it's just like a very slow evolution of
like a lot of things in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Slow change, slow but steady change.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's so interesting that it's like, for me, it's like, did I laugh or did I not laugh? But in Japan, it's like, is this Manzai or is this not Manzai? And there's really funny comedians. If you guys ever want to look at Japanese comedy, there's a group called Wara Fujinaro. I think they're the funniest comedians in Japan.
Okay.
And there'll be like a konto. So it's not a Manzai contest, but a skit contest. And, you know, somebody will do the joke, and the guy from Wara Fujinaro will be like, that was funny, but it wasn't Manzai. He'll say it as a joke because it wasn't even a Manzai, you know.
Bit. Just to make, to kind of bring it
so
up.
He's just like,
people know that this is a ongoing joke.
Yeah. So it's just, you know, in some ways it's this cool thing because it's keeping this like type of kind of cultural thing alive. It's like the Showa, you know, got really big in the Showa era. And there are really funny Manzai guys. There's guys that do weird Manzai. But it's just this constant, like, you know, how far can you move in the box? You know,
but don't get out of it.
Yeah, don't break it. Don't break the box.
We covered a lot of topic on Manzai. Is there something that you feel like people should know about it that we didn't really approach and that we didn't kind of cover?
I think a lot of people belittle Japanese comedy. They say that it's, you know, it's stupid, it's not funny. I think a lot of people just judge from what they see for a second on TV when it's, you know, you just see this guy in a funny outfit or something like that.
You see the little squares of the talento faces and the colors, and you cannot even see the person's suit because it's so colorful, but the background is even more colorful. Yeah. And it's hard to understand if you don't understand the cultural context.
Yeah, and it's like apples and oranges. It's like, you know, there's Western comedy, and then there's Japanese. Japanese comedy is amazing in its own way, but it's just this totally different monster. And everything I said today, I'm not trying to complain to say that they should change it. That's the way it is, you know, and I'm still doing it. So if it was a big problem for me, I probably wouldn't be doing it. But yeah, I think if it's probably the best way to understand Japanese society is maybe through the comedy for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So where would you start? Which show would you recommend, or which duo would you recommend us to start looking into?
I would recommend maybe there's a duo called Knights, which is a very easy to understand, basic, very talented guys. I'm actually doing a show with him next week, but they're really famous in Japan, and they do things they talk about the news, so you can at least learn about the news and jokes about the news.
So basically at the edge of the box, right? Because politics and so on are not supposed to be.
And some people, like, for some reason, they're just allowed to do that. Like, maybe they've been doing it for so long that they're allowed to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Or they became the duo known for that.
Yes, exactly. There's two duos that are known for that. The news is Knights and Bakusho Mondai. So it's like, yeah, I think that's a good place to start. Obviously, comedy is very difficult to understand, especially when it's Manzai, because there's no visual context. Like, if you want to learn Japanese, you'd want to learn it seeing a picture of, like, koppu, 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 you know what I mean? But when you're just hearing the words, it's pretty hard.
It is.
So you might want to start with konto, which are skits, because there might be a microphone or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's like a visual thing, but yeah.
Well, thank you, Nick, for coming all the way to sharing your experience on Manzai and maybe giving us some good insights into the world of Japanese comedy and TV. We'll make sure to link everything down in the description so people can find your work and your skits, basically.
Cool, man. Yeah. I don't know if I have any new skits up, but you can check out my YouTube channel because it's basically just Japanese comedy. And your Wikipedia trivia for those interested. Sure. Thank you again. Thank you, everyone, for listening and for watching. This was Unpacking Japan, and we'll be back again next week. Bye. Are you looking for another podcast episode to listen to next? If you like the one you just listened to, I'm sure you'll also enjoy the one that I've selected and linked in the description down below. Go check it out.